So Celine's ZOUZOU has finally launched. It's been a couple of weeks. I finally got my bottle. I ordered it online and I received it, as I do not have a Celine boutique near me. I've been dying to get my nose on this one, although I hear a bit of mixed reviews on this one. It's very similar to a few other Celine fragrances, but I'm still very, very interested because it seems to be similar to two of my favorite fragrances from the house of Celine, Black Tie and Dans Paris. So if you're curious to learn about Celine's ZOUZOU, first impressions video here, in addition to a complete Celine fragrances ranked list, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's Sebastian. We're talking about Celine fragrances. Are you familiar with the house of Celine? Celine is a luxury, actually clothing brand, kind of sort of like Chanel, but not Chanel, obviously. And also Celine is under LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Moet, and Hennessy. They launched their collection of luxury fragrances in 2019. Instantly, I was in love with several fragrances. I did a video back then. And I've done a few videos on the house here and there. In fact, the last time I did a video on the house ranking their entire collection of fragrances at that time was in April 15th, 2022. So it's been a while. They've launched 2 additional fragrances since that video launched. Bois Dormant, that I haven't spoken about in a list. And then, of course, last year they launched Cologne Celeste. I've featured a lot of their fragrances in various videos, but let's go back to ZOUZOU because I'm very curious to get my nose on it. In fact, when you order fragrances from places like Celine or Dior or Louis Vuitton, they will send you a return label. They will also send you some samples. They send me 2. They always send me 2 samples when I order. One sample of the original fragrance you bought, ZOUZOU, and then you can, they send you another sample. This one is Parade, which is pretty highly ranked for me. You'll find out where it goes. So if you're kind of contemplating about the fragrance, you don't want to open it up because it's not refundable, obviously fragrances are not refundable, then you can always test your sample. And if you don't like it, send it back with the label there, and that'll be it. You don't have to pay for the fragrance. They'll refund you. But I'm gonna do a blind first impressions. I did not open up my sample. I'd rather spray it from the bottle, and I'm a collector anyway. I'd like to have this fragrance, and I like the name and I like the style of the fragrance. So first off, ZOUZOU by Celine is the 2024 launch. 100 ml retails for $280, and they do have the larger bottles as well, 200 ml bottles. I ended up buying a smaller bottle of this one because I bought the larger bottles from France. They're a lot less expensive there. But since I bought this in the States, I decided to go with the smaller bottle. So it depends on what I get. It's an amber or amber vanilla fragrance, one of my favorite styles. It's an eau de parfum concentration. Now, perfumers are not mentioned for the fragrances here, which is kind of disappointing that they do that. I feel like because of the creative director behind the clothes and also the fragrances is Hedi Slimane, I think no perfumers are credited for these fragrances. And the notes for ZOUZOU are benzoin, tonka beans, patchouli, labdanum, vanilline, musk. So yeah, vanilla, lots of vanilla here, lots of amber notes, benzoin and labdanum. The tonka beans comes in, it enhances the kind of sweet, gourmandish, ambery touches. And of course, patchouli is also really a great note to connect with these types of notes and ingredients. And then they've also got musk in here. So Black Tie is probably the most popular fragrance from this house. And it's definitely become my favorite fragrance from this house. It's kind of closely tied with Dans Paris. And then I also really enjoy Parade. So the performance of the fragrances are very similar. But for me, Parade performs better on my skin to some of their stronger fragrances like Night Clubbing and Reptile. Go figure that out. But on me, Parade performs really great. But let's go ahead and open ZOUZOU up. If you already know ZOUZOU, if you've sampled it, let us know what your thoughts are. Put a comment down below. And since the consensus is that it's similar to fragrances like Black Tie and Dans Paris, do you get the similarities as well? Put a comment down below so we can find out. So the fragrances of Celine have this ribbon type thing around them, and Unfortunately, this is not my favorite part about these fragrances. I just wish they didn't have these, because then when you open them up and close them again after a while, they don't stick and they're just hanging loose. So here's the bottle. I honestly think that Celine bottles are some of the sexiest bottles I've seen. I love the fact that it's ribbed on, you know, two sides, and then it's flat on the front and the back. So it gives you this really interesting illusion. I quite like that. But again, ZOUZOU is benzoin, tonka beans, patchouli, labdanum, vanilline, and musk. Let's smell it. So what I'm going to do is, after I smell it and test it on skin, I'm going to pause the video, then come back and give you the rank list. The fragrances all perform very similarly to me, and I feel like I'm ranking it here mostly on smell. I'm smelling this fragrance already with the strip spritzed on, and I'm really liking how it smells. I do see some similarities to the other two fragrances. In fact, I think it's closer to Black Tie than Dom Paris. I also see some similarities to fragrances like Le Lion, Shalimar. Yeah, this is definitely something I really like. I like these kind of fragrances. It's definitely very vanillic. It's got a creamy side. So it's got a kind of like a fluffy, whipped, creamy kind of consistency, which is really, really delicious. Quite ambery for sure. It's the combination of amber and vanilla that is some of my favorite fragrances. For sure, this is powdery. There's some musky elements there. It does have some spicy touches. I believe the labdanum and the patchouli contribute to some spiciness there. Quite delicious. So let's go ahead and spritz on skin. I feel like this will be high on the list. Wow, it's a bit different on skin actually. There's more like a dough-like consistency with yeast when you have to let the dough rise. There's that kind of yeasty smell. I get a little bit of that here, but mostly lots of amber and vanilla for sure. It's definitely a lot different. I feel like on skin, it's a bit less patchouli, whereas on the strip, it was a bit more patchouli. Very interesting. But it doesn't mean it's bad. I do like it. It's quite delicious. The only thing is, I've smelled fragrances like this. In fact, I recently smelled Promises Promises by Kerosene. That fragrance sort of had similarities, but more on the amber. This seems a bit more gourmand to me. Okay, I'm going to pause the video now. Okay, I've been wearing ZOUZOU for a bit here, and I really love the way it smells. Sadly, it seems a little bit on the weak side, not so loud. It also reminds me a lot of Le Lion, but not the animalic qualities that Le Lion has. This one does have that doughy quality. It's actually very gourmandish to me, but more of a gourmand vanilla amber rather than just a straightforward vanilla amber. So I've put it on the list here, and you're going to find out where it ends up. It's definitely one of my favorites, and the reminder of Le Lion is really, really interesting. If you thought that Le Lion was too animalic for you, you might want to give ZOUZOU a try. Definitely. The cool thing I like also for the Celine fragrances, any fragrances under LVMH, the sprayers are really great, the bottles are really sexy and things like that. So the quality is there. But we've come to expect not beast mode fragrances from a lot of the designer fragrances. And the sad thing about Celine fragrances are they're not loud. I mean, some might come off loud to some folks. For me, when I compare it to other really intense beast mode fragrances, these are not bad. But they do have some of the greatest smells. In fact, I really love this collection for the smells. And I like the classiness about them. Everything about the fragrances I enjoy. So the one thing I want to do also mention before I move on with the countdown. So when I did the list before in 2022, April 15th, Bois Dormant and Cologne Celeste were not on that list. I believe I already mentioned that, but it's now currently on the list along with ZOUZOU as well. So at number 13, this is a top 13 list. This is all the fragrances from Celine. At number 13, it's Cologne Celeste, this one right here. We're starting off with the lightest fragrance, and the thing with the Cologne Celeste is, it's kind of like your old traditional splash-on cologne, eau de cologne type fragrance. Or they also come with a the sprayer that you can take the cap off and put the sprayer on if you wanted to spritz it on. But this gives me very nostalgic feelings. I remember fragrances like this that family had when I was very young and little. Father, mother, grandmother, grandfather all had these kind of fragrances. That's what I like about this. It's also kind of on the green side. There's Angelica here, there's Ambrette, there's lemons and Neroli. So it's powdery but very fresh, very citrusy, very citrus floral. And it gives me a powdery effect here. So it's almost like a powdery slash citrusy slash slight vegetable, musky, and also a bit green. It's really, really refreshing, but very simplistic. So I've put it here at number 13. Let me know if you're familiar with Cologne Celeste. So now we go to number 12. It's Eau de Californie, this one right here. So unfortunately, I really like the idea of this, but it's ranked lower. It's got Palo Santo, and I've never really clicked with the Palo Santo note. I don't quite understand it. Sure, it has some creaminess and things like that, but when I ranked the fragrances against all the other fragrances, this one kind of fell apart here and ended up at number 12. But the notes features are bergamot, white orris butter, Palo Santo, tree moss, patchouli. And the thing I wanted to mention that I did not mention, a lot of the fragrances do have orris. Even ZOUZOU feels like it has orris in it. That orris powdery experience in the fragrances gives you a very cohesive feeling to the fragrances. So I feel like you go from one to the other, you're wearing fragrances that could definitely be made with one person or one perfumer, and they did a great job from one to the other, and there's a kind of a connection with them. But unfortunately, Eau de Californie has ended up at the bottom. It's not a bad fragrance. It's not a wow fragrance. It's just, I'm feeling that right now, and I've put it here at number 12. Let me know, you might be a fan of this one. Are you a fan of Palo Santo? Do let me know, put a comment down below. I like the fact that that has tree moss or mossy note, but for me, it's about the Palo Santo with the orris butter. And I just wanted a little more, and it didn't get very exciting. But the next fragrance at number 11 is Reptile, this one right here. So as I was saying earlier, I feel like Reptile, since it is a leather fragrance, should act stronger, but for me, Parade performs better on my skin than Reptile does. But Reptile does smell really, really great. It's a really wonderful take on a leather fragrance, very classy, very sexy, not necessarily animalic, but just a really nice job done. It's quite peppery, and once again, it has that moss or tree moss note in here as well, but it's lots of leather with musk, and definitely has the Celine DNA. You'll recognize it. It does have a powdery effect here, but we're not using the orris note or the iris note, but I believe most likely since the DNA is there, they have some in there, but not a large quantity of it like some of the other fragrances that do actually mention the orris or iris note. It's a good one. I like it, but I do prefer the others a little more, obviously. But let me know your thoughts on Reptile. Are you a fan of it? The next fragrance at number 10 is Cologne Française, this one right here. So Cologne Française is a really nice freshie with fig note. So it's green and citrusy and citrus floral, and that's what I like about it. It goes down pretty fast, and this is one of the fragrances I bought in 2020 during the pandemic, and I've used quite a bit of it. It's perfect in the warmth. Well, you don't need warmth for these fragrances, but I feel like it comes alive in the heat more. Just the freshness of the fragrances against the heat of the weather is a perfect combination. But this is Neroli with fig tree, white orris butter, tree moss, and musk. Really wonderful offering. I prefer the other ones a little more, so I've put this Cologne Française here at number 10, but maybe you prefer it more than I do. Let me know. Put a comment down below. Cologne Française at number 10. Then it's Celine's Saint-Germain-des-Prés, this one right here. So Saint-Germain-des-Prés is a freshie with a powdery effect of heliotrope. And if you've been watching my channel, I've mentioned heliotrope is a purple flower that does have a very powdery, effect in fragrances, and also light almondiness. So if you like this kind of heliotrope-like effect with the almondiness and lots of powderiness against some freshness of the citruses, you might really like this. So it's a bit unusual compared to your typical citruses because you don't usually see heliotrope in the notes. but this adds that extra layer of uniqueness with the whole heliotrope note. So it's heliotrope, petitgrain, neroli, there's the orris root, and there's vanilla here. So there's warmth for sure, powdery touches, not only from the orris root, but also from the heliotrope. And I feel like heliotrope and orris root really do have a nice connection in fragrances. They just intensify each one's powdery touches. But this is very fresh. It's neroli and petitgrain, and neroli is the orange blossom, and then of course the petitgrain is the leaves of the bitter orange trees. So it's citrusy and warm at the same time, and very powdery. So Saint-Germain-des-Prés at number 9. So at number 8, it is Rambo, this one right here. This to me is a fragrance that hints at fragrances like Caron Pour un Homme de Caron or Jersey from Chanel. So it's a combination of lavender, lots of it, very cozy, very aromatic, spicy, against warmth of vanillic touches. But this one, on the other hand, also has orris butter. It has wheat accord, musk, and of course that vanilla. It's kind of like those two fragrances for sure. It's in the style of what Celine produces, but when you stop and smell the fragrance, you'll really be recognized. The lavender in this is a bit sharp also, a bit non-adulterated. I feel like you can smell the lavender exactly off the lavender bush rather than something like Caron Pour un Homme de Caron. There's that refinement. So this is a bit more raw to me for some strange reason, and I like that about it. And I like the combination of lavender and vanilla. They make for a great combination. It's been done for decades, over almost 100 years with Caron Pour un Homme de Caron. And again, this is that kind of a style, but in the style of Celine fragrances with their own DNA. It's definitely a nicely done fragrance. This, I believe, came out in 2021 during the height of the pandemic, and I think they did a great job with it, but I prefer the other fragrances definitely more. But this is Rambo from the house of Celine. Let me know if you're a fan of that one. Next, at number 7, it's Bois Dormant, this one right here. So this one was not featured on the main list, of course, the last time I did the list, and the Cologne Celeste was also not featured on that list. It's a great woody fragrance. It's a kind of a classy masculine luxury take on, I don't know if I want to say this, but the Dior Homme 2020. Do you guys know that fragrance? It's kind of in that style. It's simplistic. It's all woody and freshness together, and a bit of aromatic touch from the juniper, you know, giving you that kind of ice cold effect to the fragrance. And then of course they've thrown in their signature note of orris butter, but it kind of acts simplistic because it's mostly citrus, aromatics, and woods with the powderiness of the orris butter that's in here. But I think they did a good job. So if I wanted to smell great wearing a woody fragrance that goes powdery, then definitely Bois Dormant would be it right there. From Celine, that is Bois Dormant. And the next fragrance at number 6, it's Night Clubbing, this one right here. Wonderful name for a fragrance. This one, in addition to Reptile, for me, smell really, really great, but perform poorly on me when I'm comparing it to Parade. But the idea of this fragrance is so amazing. I really, really love it. It also kind of reminds me a little bit of Iris Malicon because it's kind of that similar style. But here we've got galbanum, white orris butter, patchouli, tree moss, vanilla, and musk. It's missing the leather that's present in Iris Malicon, but in the end it kind of reminds me of it because it has that green galbanum note plus the orris butter, which is present in Iris Malicon. Of course, the Iris Malicon had that leather. Kind of a similar idea. I really love the way it smells. I just wish it performed a little better. What do you guys think? Do you guys get great performance from Night Clubbing? Moving on to number 5, it's La Peau Nue, this one right here. Really wonderful offering here. Really, really great fragrance. This is Orris with rose, rice, bergamot, and vetiver. Rice and orris gives you a lot of powdery effect here. Rice also has a bit of nuttiness. You do get that a little bit here. And then you get the rose as well. But in the end, there's a freshness with the bergamot and woodiness from the vetiver. It might come off a bit simplistic, but really a great smell. I really love this one and really enjoy wearing it. There's something about this one that I feel connected to it, and I just really love the combination. It's the orris, the star here. It's the star note, which is found in a lot of their other fragrances, whereas it's more of a supporting player in the other fragrances. Here it's the star, and it smells really, really fantastic. And with the slight nuttiness of the rice note that's in here, gives you a very powdery fragrance experience with woods, citruses, and of course floral touches of the rose. So that's La Peau Nue. Let me know if you're familiar with that one. And we're getting really great here with the rest of the fragrances. This is the top 4 is the best of the best here. Really, really wonderful offerings. At number 4, it's Parade. I absolutely love this. This is one of the best designer citrus fragrances. And again, it performs better than Reptile and Night Clubbing for me. And that's really, really wonderful that it does. It smells super amazing to me. It's got a very magical smell, almost as magical as Bergamot 22 from Le Labo. That smell is one of the best smells I've ever put my nose on. And here, it's mostly a citrus fragrance, right? It's a lot of neroli and bergamot, but it has vetiver, it has musk and oak moss. The combination is super, super fantastic. Very sexy. Wears perfectly in the summertime. Really, really wonderfully in the heat. And again, lasts longer on me compared to Night Clubbing and Reptile. Go figure that out. But I also do liberally spray this stuff because you need to. It just smells so good. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Parade? Let me know. It's interesting. Parade is the fragrance that stands out the most when I first got my nose on all the Celine fragrances at the Celine boutique in New York City in 2019. In fact, I got a sample of Parade, and I bought a bottle of Dans Paris. Did I buy a bottle? No, I ordered it after I got a sample of Dans Paris as well. Those two stood out so much, and really a wonderful offering here, Parade. And speaking of Dans Paris, it's number 3. This is the first fragrance I bought from Celine. I really loved it. It's a unique vanilla fragrance in that it has laurel blossom in the notes. So it's got this very strange bitterness there, floral bitterness, which is quite unique against the vanilla. In addition to those two notes, there's coriander, there's musk and bergamot as well. And I feel like they've got the signature note in here as well. They're not crediting it. It's the Orris because it's quite powdery on me. But it's a really great fragrance. It's got that unique kind of aromatic bitter greenness from the laurel blossom. That's quite a pleasure to wear, and it creates a very powdery effect. That's why it's a great fragrance for me. I feel like also this is the first fragrance I bought. It has slipped a little because I've enjoyed black tie more now. I really love black tie, but for some strange reason, when I first smelled Dans Paris, or the whole entire collection, I should say, at the Celine boutique in New York City, black tie didn't stand out. So that's why I ended up with Dans Paris. But now black tie is ahead of the Dans Paris. But this is Dans Paris from the house of Celine. That is at number 3. And then at number 2, it is ZOUZOU. ZOUZOU is really, really wonderful. I really love the way this smells. The only problem or the negative for it, I feel like it's a little weaker than Dans Paris and also black tie. That's the sad part about it. But as a smell, it's so, so delicious, guys. Really, really delicious. It's the benzoin, the tonka beans, patchouli, labdanum, vanilline, musk. To me, it acts like Lilion. It acts like a very modern take on Shalimar. And for sure, it does remind me of black tie as well. I just wish it was a little bit more potent. Let's see if the fragrance needs to mature and macerate. But I think this is a really nicely made fragrance. But as a smell, it rocks. What do you guys think about ZOUZOU? If you're a fan of fragrances like Le Lion, as I was saying, Le Lion has got the animalic stuff. People complain about it. It's too animalic. Try that one. You might like it. And then, of course, at number 1, it's black tie. Black tie is amazing. I really love it. And probably the most popular fragrance from this house. Is it your favorite? Put a comment down below. But it's vanilla, orris, cedar, moss, and musk. I feel like the moss also comes up quite a bit in the fragrances of Celine. But I feel like orris is key. It's their magic note. It's in a lot of their fragrances. Even if they don't credit it, it's there. Because the fragrances in general have a powderiness about them. And when you have the orris listed, they even go further powdery. But vanilla, orris together smells divine, really, really divine, with the cedar as a base note and the moss and the musk as well as a base note. To me, this is mostly a base notes fragrance because the vanilla, maybe the orris is a heart note, but there's nothing fresh about it. It's just powdery, vanillic, ambery, a bit resinous and woody and mossy. Delicious fragrance. Black tie is number 1 still. And let me know your thoughts on these fragrances. Put a comment down below. Let me know what your favorite Celine fragrances are. If you've sampled a bunch, can you make a top 5 of your favorites? And what are your thoughts on ZOUZOU? Do let me know. Put a comment down below, guys. Thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.